as you already know, the big news in my state and actually around the country, the tornadoes that ripped through 7 states hit my state particularly hard. The good news is the loss of life is not as great as we first anticipated. The candle factory, which everyone focused on, it had 110 employees. Apparently 90 of them survived. It's never good news when you lose 70 people in your state in an event like this, but given how severe the storm was, it actually could have been worse. So far, my assessment is that the first responders are on the scene in every county affected. I've been calling local officials. I don't think we have a single person who's without a home to go to. Even if they lost their own home, they're going to neighbors, to friends, to State Park near there. We believe we've got shelter for everyone and had that Saturday. So the rebuilding process will begin, and so far I give very good marks to the federal agencies who are on the scene working hard, and the volunteers who come from all over, one of whom was my colleague Rob Portman, who put a friend in the car and drove down to Bowling Green, Kentucky with a chainsaw and volunteered his help. And that sort of thing was going on not only inside the state, but from other states. One person from Tennessee brought a whole lot of food and started feeding people. So the way folks have rallied together after this is truly heartening, and we're all very, very grateful for their response.
And I think everybody here, all of our colleagues, fully supportive of Senator McConnell and his team, people of Kentucky, people of Arkansas who've been so impacted by this horrible disaster, and we'll support them in every way possible that we can. Let me just, if I might, talk for a moment about what's happening here with respect to the Democrats' massive, reckless tax and spending spree. We got some information just in the last few days into last week that shed some light on kind of where we are in terms of the economy. And the economic news with respect to inflation showed that inflation is at its highest level in 39 years. Almost 40 years since inflation has been where it is today. And somebody pointed out that back in 1982, E.T. was in the theater the last time inflation was this high. But it's not a transitory thing. The Federal Reserve has now removed that description from their lexicon in talking about inflation. This is something that is impacting people's budgets on a daily basis, whether it's food, whether it's gasoline, whether it's rent, utilities, everything is being impacted right now by this run-up in inflation. And even if you were getting a pay raise, a pay increase, in many cases it's not keeping up with the cost of inflation. So many people in this country are getting what is a de facto, an actual pay cut as a result of this rapid increase in run-up in prices. So it seems like a really bad time to be talking about spending a whole lot of new money in the economy that would further exacerbate this inflationary problem, this crisis that we're currently experiencing. And then coupled with that piece of news on inflation was also the report from the Congressional Budget Office that pointed out that if the programs the Democrats are proposing here in their reckless tax and spending spree were continued, and every expectation is they would be, that the actual cost of their proposal isn't $1.7 trillion, it's actually $4.9 trillion, almost $5 trillion expansion and growth in government in the Democrats' reckless tax and spending spree. And what it further pointed out was that the revenue that they expect to raise from the tax increases that they already have in the bill will come dramatically short of covering that. In fact, it would leave a $3 trillion difference, $3 trillion, which would be added to the federal debt in this country. This is a massive expansion and growth of government financed with big tax increases and huge run-ups in the federal debt. I can't think of anything that worse that we could be doing right now with the economy where it is than adding trillions of dollars to the debt, increasing taxes, which could hurt our economy and cost us jobs, and further add to, with all this spending, the inflationary problems that the country is already experiencing. So all it takes is one Democrat. We've said that repeatedly. I would say it again. All it takes is one Democrat to put the brakes on and stop this thing dead in its tracks. And that is exactly what should happen for the good of the American people.
Joe Biden started the year as president by giving a speech saying America is back, and we have been backpedaling ever since. With these new inflation numbers, we're on our backs in terms of the economy. After the disaster of Afghanistan, we know our back is against the wall in international relations. And now we have a president with his so-called Build Back Better bill, which I believe will break the backs of American hardworking families. So the Biden administration took two punches. It was a 1-2 punch this past Friday, one with the inflation numbers, and everyone is feeling those. The people are changing because of inflation, the way they drive, the way they shop, the way they eat, and Joe Biden is turning into the Grinch that stole Christmas. Everyone is feeling the pain. Wages cannot keep up, and the people who are suffering the most are people living on a fixed income, our seniors, people struggling to get by, and if they pass this reckless tax and spending bill, inflation will get worse. The second punch was that of the full cost of the bill. Once you get rid of all the accounting gimmicks and allow these programs to go forward for a full 10 years, the cost is astronomical. $4.9 trillion and adding $3 trillion to the debt. When I talk to people at home in Wyoming, they are most bothered by what they're paying to fill up with gas and when they go to the grocery store. But those aren't the only things they don't like about the bill. They don't like the content of the legislation with regard to illegal immigrants. Amnesty for 6.5 million illegal immigrants. Direct paychecks from the government for people who are here in this country illegally. They don't like the fact that there'll be more IRS agents hired, an entire army of IR agents specifically focused on auditing American taxpayers in an effort to try to get more taxpayer dollars and squeeze that out of taxpayers. And they don't like all of the taxes and penalties on oil, gas, and coal, which are going to make it even more expensive to drive or to heat your homes. Those are all things that are really, really problematic in this bill, and American people, when they know all these things about the bill, are overwhelmingly opposed to this legislation. Well, after we get through this year, this inflationary Christmas, people are going to look at Joe Biden as he goes into his second year, and they're going to see a president where inflation is at record high numbers and the president's approval is at record low numbers, and he has earned both.
Inflation is at a nearly 40-year high, and we have seen it rise in rate the fastest in a decade. This is really hard on our Iowa families and families all across the United States. And folks, pushing forward with this reckless tax and spend bill, it is not going to make things better. I just hope the Democrats understand that they realize the impact to our families and how badly this will end next year if they continue down this path. But on a lighter note, folks, I am a combat veteran and I served in the global war on terrorism. And I am pleased to announce that we are moving forward with the NDAA, and the Global War on Terrorism Memorial Location Act has been included in the NDAA. And I hope to vote on that very soon, maybe tomorrow, and get that to the president's desk. And then hopefully within the next couple of years, the foundation will be able to start on a memorial on our nation's mall. So I want to thank everyone who has stepped forward, supported those men and women in uniform, those that gave significant sacrifice in the global war on terrorism. This memorial will be a place of healing for the Gold Star families that lost a loved one. It will be a place of remembrance for all who served in the global war on terror and their families as well. So to everyone involved, thank you so much and God bless you. Thank you.
I wish Joe Biden and the Democrats would stop and think about what they're doing to a typical family. If you look at right now, there's so many families in our country that always struggle. They struggle to make ends meet. And this year, they've seen their gas prices go up. They've seen their food prices go up. They've seen their rent go up. So what he's doing is, for families that are struggling to make ends meet, he's made it way worse. We saw the highest inflation numbers with 39 years. And it's impacting people like what my mom lived through. She had to make a choice. She had enough money for gas, or did she have enough money to feed 5 kids? And that's what's going on all across our country. And then we see that in this reckless spending bill, they're going to cut charity care for our hospitals, our safety net hospitals in red states like Florida. I mean, think about what the Democrats are doing. They're going to cut health care to the poorest families in this country intentionally. How could they do that? Then in their bill, they want to reduce your opportunities for child care and significantly increase the cost of your child care. So I wish the Democrats would slow down and start thinking about how are they impacting families around this country. If you're on a fixed income, I don't know how you're making ends meet when you see this significant inflation that's going on.
Jeff?
When we hear the criticism about the IRS, can you lay out in concrete terms what is an acceptable level of IRS enforcement? I mean, to hear Republicans talk about some of the criticisms of this amped up IRS enforcement that the Democrats have in their bill might lead some to think that you guys don't want any IRS enforcement. What do you say?
Well, Senator Thune, a member of the Finance Committee, may have a better answer than I, but I think the last thing the American people need is an army of IRS agents crawling all over everything. We actually have in this country, I believe, a pretty high record of tax compliance, particularly compared to many other countries. But John, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add is that there are several issues related to this. One is that the Democrats think that they're going to raise a whole lot more revenue by doing this. They have these, they were talking in $700 billion to $1 trillion at one point. I think CBO realistically has given them net about $120 billion of what it would actually realize. But to get that, you're literally invading and intruding on the privacy of tens of millions of Americans. I mean, what they're talking about is the transactions, their bank accounts on a daily basis, all those transactions being subject to inspection, if you will, by the IRS. And doubling the IRS's budget to $80 billion by $80 billion, and or I should to $80 billion, and adding thousands and thousands of new IRS agents is not something that the American people are ready to accept. Now, should the law be enforced? Absolutely. And should people pay the taxes that they owe? Absolutely. And are there some things that we can do to increase that level of compliance? Yes. But not to include the incredible increase that they're talking about, both in terms of budget and additional agents and invasion of privacy of the American people in order to make that happen.
We were learning from the House Select Committee that a number of Republicans had reached out to Mark Meadows asking for Donald Trump to get more involved and do more on January 6th to secure this building. Were you personally in contact with Mark Meadows that day and other White House officials to urge Trump to do more?
Yeah, I was not, but I do think we're all watching, as you are, what is unfolding on the House side. And it will be interesting to reveal all the participants that were involved.
Were you concerned about what you're doing so far?
Bipartisan meetings are happening with the parliamentarian this week. Do you think the parliamentarians' work on the Build Back Better Act will be done by next week in time for potential floor consideration next week?
Well, you know, the bird bath is underway. We've been basically in making our arguments, and my understanding is the way it proceeds is next, both sides come in and make their arguments. It seems to me there's just not a whole lot of time between now and Christmas, but the majority leader continues to say he wants this bill on the floor before Christmas. We'll see. As others have said, it seems to me Senator Manchin can determine the timing here. If he thinks it's not ready and he's not ready to go, then I assume this will be brought up some other time. The best Christmas present the American people could hear was that this bill was going nowhere.
Leader McConnell, do you expect a supplemental meeting